All right, guys, last video. I'm going to quickly walk you through what the remaining mythic themes are, just so you have an idea of what we're going to be using as like the framework for this class. So we've already looked at creation accounts, we looked at heroes and heroic journey. I'm going to hit the last five here real quickly. Gods and goddesses are exactly what they would sound like they would be. Typically, they're actually gods and goddesses, okay? So they're usually real deities because they're gods and goddesses that are believed by these people, but they're not always. They're just beings of great power and influence. So, for example, in Celtic mythology, you're not going to see as many gods and goddesses as frequently in those stories, but you will see kings and queens who have ultimate authority over their subjects. Same concept, beings of great power and influence. Good and evil, also going to be something that you know what it is. It's the idea of what is right and what is wrong. So if you're taking notes, just write down that first thing, morality. Okay, what is right and what is wrong. Now, these questions that I have up there, those help us divide what the differences are between mythologies. And we'll look at that. Like, they don't all view good and evil the same way. Like, what distinguishes the two? Is one ultimately more powerful than the other? Where did they come from? Are they going to always be combating, or will one win out over the other eventually? How do they address right and wrong? Tricksters. Two things I want you to know about Trickster. I love Tricksters. Tricksters are really fun to tell stories about, but there are things that people often misunderstand when it comes to Tricksters. Tricksters are troublemakers, but they're also troublemakers in a sacred context. So you got to get both of those. So troublemaker means that they're usually the crude, profane, kind of comic relief in a story. They do things to cause trouble, but they're also either a primary god or goddess in that culture or closely connected to a primary god or goddess in that culture. For example, one of the most famous tricksters is Coyote in Native American mythology. He is a troublemaker. Like, there's stories about him burning down the entire planet. There are stories about him like tricking a giant into like cutting off his own legs so that he can run faster. He causes problems, but he is also the creator of the world in most of those myths as well. So he's in a sacred excuse me, guys. He's in a sacred context, but he's also a troublemaker. That's what makes him a trickster. So they're like a multi-dimensional kind of character. They're not flat at all. Nature and animals, exactly what it sounds like it would be. How does this society or this mythology address what is around them? And the thing I want you to remember is that culture is fascinated with context. We tell stories about what is around us. And even in the more like metropolitan of the mythologies, like your Greek and your Roman stories, where you have bigger cities. Those bigger cities at that time were still largely agricultural. So the things that surrounded them were nature and animals. How do they interact with that in their stories? And it is different depending on which mythology we're looking at. And then the last one is Fantastic Beast. And a Fantastic Beast really is kind of like the spice of mythology. They don't have to be there, but a lot of times they are. And a lot of people are really fascinated with them. So like your Pegasi and things like that, like, what are those creatures? And the main thing to understand is a fantastic beast is just any animal that does not actually exist in real life. Okay. And so we're going to look at them. You will look at them more than I will, because one of your projects is a monster mash presentation where you have a chance to address multiple fantastic beasts from all across the mythological plane here. I will just address them as they come up in the stories that we tell. So those are your 7 mythic themes. So I will make sure that you have a link to that Kahoot. If you have this PowerPoint presentation, if you're in my class, really, that link is live and you can look at that and walk through it and make sure you understand everything. This is the end of Unit 1. I hope you guys got something out of it. If not, I sincerely apologize. Have a great day, guys. Make wise decisions. And as always, Merry Christmas.